Welcome to our fifth session. Today, we're getting into a really big topic, workplace bullying. What are your actual rights? What is your boss legally on the hook for? We're gonna arm you with all the knowledge you need to feel confident and, empowered no matter where you work. Let's dive in. So, let's just kick things off with a question you hear all the time. Oh, come on, can't you take a joke? It's just a bit of banter. We've all heard it, right? But the real question is, can that banter actually cross a legal line? Is there a point where it becomes illegal? Well, that's exactly what we're here to figure out. So, here's our game plan for today. First up, we'll look at the difference between general bullying and what the law actually cares about. Then we'll get into your boss's legal responsibilities. After that, what happens when a complaint is actually made. And then, the most important bit, your personal action plan. And we'll wrap up with a couple of questions for you to chew on. All right, section 1, bullying versus the law. Now, you might think the rules here are pretty straightforward, but the legal side of things is actually way more specific than just, hey, don't be a jerk. And here we go, our first major curveball for a lot of people. Believe it or not, under UK law, there is no specific crime called bullying. You can't just take someone to court for being a bully. I know, that sounds absolutely wild, right? But this is why the next part is so crucial. So, if bullying isn't the magic legal word, what is? Well, the word you really need to know is harassment. This is how bullying can become illegal. See, harassment is any unwanted behavior that's connected to a specific part of who you are, what the Equality Act of 2010 calls a protected characteristic. And this slide just lays it out perfectly. Over on the left, you've got general bullying. Someone's being unfair, offensive, just plain mean. It's horrible for sure, but it's not illegal by itself. But then on the right, you've got illegal harassment. That's when the bullying is because of your age or your race, your sex, a disability, your religion. You get the idea. That's the moment it crosses the line from just bad behavior into something the law can actually do something about. Okay, let's move on, because this isn't just about what one person does to another. Nope. Your employer has a massive, legally binding role to play in all of this. It is not just your problem to solve. And look at this. This is straight from the government's official guidance, and it couldn't be clearer. Employers are responsible. They are legally liable for harassment that happens under their roof. So the big takeaway here is they can't just throw their hands up and say it's got nothing to do with them. It absolutely does. So what does that responsibility actually look like day to day? Well, think of this as their playbook. A good employer has to have a clear policy, they have to work to create a safe environment, they need a culture where there's zero tolerance for this stuff, and they have to make it crystal clear how everyone is expected to behave. This isn't just a list of nice ideas, it's their actual duty. Okay, so what happens if all that prevention stuff fails and somebody makes a complaint? What's supposed to happen next? Let's walk through the process. Rule number 1, the absolute golden rule for every employer is that they have to take every single complaint seriously. No brushing it under the carpet, no telling you you're being too sensitive. They must investigate, and they must do it quickly. And here's the big stick. Here's why they need to listen. If an employer ignores your complaint and things get so bad that you feel like you have to quit, well, you could have a claim for what's called constructive dismissal. Trust me, that is a massive legal headache for a company, and it gives you a whole lot of leverage. Now, if things get serious, you'll probably hear this term grievance procedure. Don't let the fancy words put you off. All it is the official, formal, step-by-step process a company is legally required to have to sort out your complaint fairly. It's their own rule book for handling this stuff properly. And now we get to the most important part of this whole session, what you can actually do. Think of this section as your toolkit, your power-ups. Let's look at the steps you can take to get this sorted. The main thing to remember is that you are not powerless here. Not at all. There is a clear, structured path you can follow. It might feel scary, but just knowing these steps can make all the difference in the world. So here it is, your action plan. Step 1, if, and this is a huge F, only if you feel safe and comfortable, you could try an informal chat. If that's not an option or it doesn't work, you level up to step 2. Go speak to a manager or HR. Step 3 is when you pull out the big guns. You file that formal grievance we just talked about. And finally, your final move, if all else fails, is to consider legal action at an employment tribunal. So there you have it. We've gone through the law, what your boss needs to do, and your own personal action plan. The last thing to do now is to think about how all of this actually works in the real world. And we'll leave you with two big questions to discuss. First, what do you think are the absolute must-haves for a company's anti-bullying policy? And second, how exactly does that Equality Act we mentioned act like a shield to protect people from harassment? Honestly, knowing the answers to these is the first step to making every workplace safer for everyone.